Thank you everyone for taking time out of your probably very busy week, because I know getting into the holiday season, it can get very busy during this time. I actually just came back from 2 trips, which are hopefully my last trips of the year. So I can come back and do this boot camp this afternoon. So appreciate everyone taking the time out. This is a brand new boot camp that I'm delivering this afternoon on how to find opportunities and thrive in a saturated market. So this was a talk. It's based on a talk that our VP of Customer Experience, David Weeks, if anyone knows David, has been giving out in the market at different industry events over the last, I would say, maybe 4 or 5 months or so. And it was such a great talk. Now, his was only like 20-25 minutes, so I've expanded it a little bit more, but it was a really great talk that really seemed to be resonating with MSPs in the room. So I thought it'd be a good idea, especially since this is kind of the marketing and lead gen kind of area of my training that I've been delivering the last month. So I thought it'd be a good idea. So based on his talk, to take that theme and make a boot camp out of it, so that those MSPs that aren't attending, the exchange events and the other events that David has been speaking at, they too would have a benefit and the good fortune to kind of hear what David's message is currently out in the market. So if you haven't attended any of my boot camps or office hours in the past, my name is Stephanie Hammond. I'm the head nerd that's responsible for all things sales and marketing related. I have been with Enable for about 19 years, just celebrated my 19th anniversary a few weeks ago. So I've had a lot of different roles here at Enable, with my last role being principal account manager for our elite and super elite partners. So you can see my contact information there on the screen. I have a QR code because I'm on LinkedIn. So if you're on LinkedIn, we should be linked together. So let's get into the agenda for today. And so this is a little bit of a departure from what I normally train to, because this is based more on a talk that David gives out in the market. But again, being the sales and marketing nerd, I'm throwing a lot more marketing into it. But it isn't typical of what you have seen if you are accustomed to attending my boot camps in the past. So hopefully you don't mind the change in format. But really today's session is focused around really answering one question. And that one question is, why are some MSPs growing year over year, having that consistency, while others are not? And in working to explore how we can answer this question, we're going to be speaking about this concept that David's been talking about, red ocean, blue ocean. So if you haven't heard of this dynamic, don't worry, I'm going to be going through today what we mean by that. And then we're going to spend the rest of the session really talking about then, how do you move your MSP out of a red ocean and into a blue ocean, so that you can achieve good, sustainable growth in the years to come. So, according to the Technology and Services Industry Association, they put out a State of Managed Services report every year. For 2023, they were saying that managed services revenue growth was up 23% in 2022. And Business Wire predicts that the global managed services market is expected to reach $311 billion, billion with a B, by 2027. So pretty phenomenal numbers that we're reading about concerning our industry. So given these numbers, why then are some MSPs continuing to grow? Again, 20%, 30% year over year growth, while there's still others that are not, and really their growth has been almost stagnant. And so thinking about this, there's really kind of 3 different scenarios that we might be able to attribute to this. Scenario 1, we might have the right strategy, we might have the right plan, but maybe the wrong execution. And what I'm thinking about this is, we have the plan, we have the strategy, but we put the plan and the strategy in the hands of the wrong person or the wrong people. So they did not, or the team did not, for whatever reason, didn't execute the way that the plan or the strategy was designed. Or scenario 2, we might have the right strategy, but we just have the wrong plan. Maybe we put the wrong steps in place to act on that strategy. And so if we have that, we're not going to execute as well as we should. And then the last scenario, scenario 3, the MSP could have the wrong strategy, or, what I tend to see a lot, there's really no strategy in place. And so therefore, if we don't have any strategy or any plan, we're kind of winging it as we go along. And so therefore, there's really no execution. So want to spend a moment kind of thinking about, this word strategy, because you hear about it a lot. It's a term we kind of throw around a lot. Like, what do we mean when we say strategy? Looking at Wikipedia, they define strategy as, how the ends or the goals will be achieved by the means, meaning the resources that we have to help meet our goals. Strategy can be intentional, meaning it's something that we plan, or it can emerge as a pattern of activity as the organization adapts, to its environment or to its competition. But really, at the end of the day, strategy is all about choices. How does an organization decide where to allocate or where to dedicate their resources to help achieve its short, medium, and long-term goals that maybe it's set for itself? So why do MSPs seem to struggle with developing their strategy? And in thinking about this, and I don't mean this in any disrespect, but there's some MSPs that I work with, and they're just missing this concept of this growth mindset. And you've probably heard this term. There's so many books on it, and there's so many, TED Talks, and there's so much focus being now put on having this growth mindset. And again, it's not meant to be a negative. I just think MSPs, you guys are all really, really busy, getting bogged down in all that day-to-day stuff. The day-to-day distractions, dealing with your customers, your employees. So all that stuff, like where we talk about working in the business. And so that really leaves very little time to kind of put yourself out of that business and get the time needed to work on that business. So they're not getting that quality time that's needed to really, set their goals, plan their roadmap, and really kind of think about, what's the direction that they want to take their business. Because businesses will ultimately grow to the size of the thinking of the owner. And this was a comment that you've probably heard me say in a couple of other boot camps, because I think it is so relevant. I heard it on a podcast a little while ago. It was a podcast that was focused on MSP growth opportunities. And the host was talking about why he believes some MSPs are growing while others don't. And he said that businesses will ultimately grow to the size of the thinking of the owner. And I just think it's true. Again, no disrespect. It's just how much intentional thought and planning a business owner puts into running their MSP. And this could be, attributed to any business owner running any business in any industry. It's not an MSP industry problem, but how much intentional thought and planning a business owner puts into running their business, how much intentional thought goes into mapping out their strategy, their direction, their plans. That is what is ultimately going to dictate how successful a business will become. And for those MSPs that might be lacking this goal setting or strategy mindset, it is potentially going to limit the growth of their MSP, and it's only going to get a little bit more difficult as the years go on. And the reason I say this is, although there's still fantastic growth that can be expected within the MSP industry, we've seen that from those opening stats, we are operating in a saturated market, and MSPs are continuing to struggle with, how do they better differentiate themselves and how do they make themselves stand out from their competition in order to grab more of that market share for their business. And we refer to this concept as the red ocean, blue ocean dynamic. And so if you've never heard of this, no worries. As David was out giving these talks, there was MSPs in the room that had never heard of this red ocean, blue ocean strategy. It's been around for, I think 15 years now. But when we talk about this, especially when we talk about a blue ocean, this is a business strategy that was developed by W. Chan Kim and Brene Brown, where you focus on creating new market opportunities for your business within a highly competitive saturated market, which we refer to as a red ocean. And the thought process behind this strategy is, why compete for market share in an overpopulated market when we should really just figure out a way to create our own market? And as we look at the MSP industry and even Enable as a vendor in the MSP space, we are the very definition of a red ocean. According to MSP Alliance, and I was trying to find some stats as to, how many MSPs are there in the world today. I had to go back to the mid 2000s, and MSP Alliance back in the mid 2000s, they estimated back then there was about 150,000 MSPs globally, with about 40,000 of those residing in the US and another 7,000 MSPs residing in the UK. And then the rest kind of spread out globally. So there's definitely a lot of competition out there that managed service providers need to contend with. So just to kind of explain this concept a little bit further, if this is new. So again, red oceans, these are pre-existing industries that have many, many competitors, all fighting for the same set of clients. The color red, it's a little graphic, a little dramatic, but they say that the color red, why we call it a red ocean, is it denotes the bloody battle that exists for revenue, market space, customer growth among all those companies that reside in that industry. And growth mainly comes at the expense of exploiting existing demand within that market. And a lot of times companies will get drawn into kind of price wars, or they'll get drawn into heavy discounting to try and win the deal. And so not a good situation to be in because it is going to serve to limit your potential growth. Whereas when you look at a blue ocean, the primary objective here is to create that new market for yourself. One that's based on gaining a deeper understanding of, your prospects' needs, their requirements, helping them deal with whatever business challenges they might be currently dealing with. And so by doing this is going to allow you to better differentiate yourselves and allow you to compete more on value than on price. Because, companies that operate within that blue ocean industry, they're offering a product or a service that their target audience needs, but their competitors either aren't delivering yet or they're not doing a great job of promoting. And we all know how great MSPs are at promoting themselves online. So it could be that your competitors in your space are delivering these great services that I'm going to talk about today, but you just would never know because they're not promoting it. And we all know that you are what you are online. So if they're not promoting it, but you start to, you're going to leapfrog over them. So we now find ourselves kind of in this midst of this new red ocean reality, unfortunately. And so the challenge for MSPs is going to be, if they want to win more clients and if they want to increase their market share, it is going to become necessary to kind of change up their marketing and sales tactics. And we're going to be talking about today how you can redefine your business so that you can go out and create your own blue ocean to swim in, kind of away from, those multitude of different competitors that are out there that you've been sharing the space with for the better part of 20 years. So that is what today's boot camp is going to be focused on. What steps do we need to take to redefine our business so that we can shift from this super saturated red ocean industry that we're finding ourselves in into that less crowded blue ocean where we can hopefully increase our market share and enjoy increased revenues. But it starts from getting a good understanding, a good handle on what the present situation looks like for your MSP in your area. And so we're going to be looking at things like, what are the most pressing challenges, that are facing the MSP industry today that MSPs need to adapt and deal with. Looking at what does the competitive landscape look like in your area? What are other MSPs doing to address these industry challenges that we're going to be talking about? And then what does the data tell us? Is there data that we're already collecting that we can leverage to help us figure out where these new revenue opportunities lie? So looking at the challenges that are facing the MSP industry today, that MSPs need to deal with, and I'm sure this list is nothing new to anybody listening to me and attending today, but it starts with businesses of unparalleled reliance on IT, and this has heightened incredibly since COVID. Businesses have very little patience for downtime because they recognize that downtime costs their organization money. HR is the #1 expense an organization has, and having unproductive employees who can't work because their systems have gone offline, that's an expense that no organization really wants to incur. So there is this grand expectation that organizations now have of their MSP and the MSP that they've partnered with, that they think and they believe and they expect their MSP to be doing everything they can to prevent downtime from occurring. And then if downtime does happen for whatever reason, then they expect their MSP to be super responsive and to work around the clock to get them back up and running as soon as humanly possible. Customers just have this expectation now. Also, a lot of businesses have gone hybrid, right? They have this hybrid infrastructure with these hybrid network setups in place. They're dealing with a hybrid workforce, and you as MSPs now need to support all this. And in order to best support these new hybrid environments in this new hybrid workforce, MSPs need to have more in-depth visibility into all the areas of the organization's infrastructure so that they can become immediately aware when there is something wrong or something amiss or something's not performing the way it should, which kind of links back to that previous challenge where customers now expect super responsive support, but MSPs can only provide super responsive support if they have the right level of visibility in place. And so because of this, MSPs need to really invest in the right set of tools that's going to allow them to monitor everything and gain quick access into all the different pieces of the network within one view without having to waste time ducking in and out of different consoles just to get the information that they need before they can even start fixing the problem. And MSPs need a solution that will allow them to monitor and manage everything that exists in the customer's environment and not leave any critical devices out of that management view, because we can only protect and deal with those devices that we know about. So we need to know about all the devices that are in that network in order for us to do our job. And then to support workers wherever they happen to be, this has also been quite challenging for MSPs because end users are generally the weakest link when it comes to mitigating risk and protecting the organization's data. And the bad guys, they're getting really, really good in this new reality post-pandemic, and they're only getting better and better at it. When you look at the continual rise of ransomware and other phishing attacks that are happening, cyber attacks like phishing, business email compromise, that type of thing. And so it's no coincidence that because of all of this, organizations are now having to contend with a growing number of cyber threats and attacks. And because of this, they're looking to their MSPs for help on how to best protect themselves from becoming a victim of an attack. Because again, we all know and we've heard it, it's not about if, it's about when. And so businesses now need to have a formal incident response plan in place to help defend themselves, and they're looking towards their MSP to help them with that. Also, there's a lot of businesses now, especially, I think post-pandemic, that are challenged with how to best utilize the cloud to enable their digital transformation journey. And IT is getting very complex. And although businesses know they need to move in this direction, a lot of them are unsure of how to do so or how to proceed in a safe, efficient, and secure manner. So it is incumbent on the MSP to be able to have these high-level strategy conversations with their customers and prospects and help them create a plan for their transformation journey, making sure that they're explaining everything that's involved in the process and then working with their customers to get that plan implemented in a logical manner. All of which is leading to increased costs of IT, because none of this is cheap. Increased costs in IT management. And after HR, we know IT is the second most expense item that they have when you look at their budget. But while these are challenges that the MSP industry is facing today, I'm sure you can recognize that they also represent a wealth of opportunity for MSPs. And if you were fortunate enough to attend one of our Empower events, either in Vegas last year or Prague earlier this year, you know that this was really the main point of John's keynote. You know, John Pegg, our CEO, he talks about this analogy of headwinds and tailwinds. And although these are headwinds for the industry, they are tailwinds for MSPs. Because small and medium-sized enterprises, they've become so heavily reliant on their IT, especially since the pandemic, that your value as an MSP, it's grown. You know, small and medium-sized enterprises, they are relying very heavily now for that proactive recurring set of services and security services that can help businesses address these kind of challenges that they're facing today and that they're experiencing within their business. And I think for the most part, the MSPs are doing a really good job, you know, delivering their services and helping their customers address and overcome a lot of these challenges. But in saying all of this, I still see the disconnect. You know, MSPs are continuing to find themselves swimming in this red ocean and competing for market share. And so why is that? You know, it's because I think MSPs they're dealing with their own set of, you know, challenges and headwinds, and it's limiting their growth. And the first one, and I've already talked about it, you know, kind of lack of a growth mindset. And again, not a negative comment. It's just really dealing with this lack of time because they're so busy working on other items in the business. They're getting distracted. Again, employees, customers, that it's taking them away from investing the time that's needed to, you know, put themselves on a retreat, a self-imposed retreat, to work on that business. And this could be a decision that's being made consciously or subconsciously. And when I used to be in partner success and I had my own territory of partners that I would manage throughout the years, you know, as I was starting to talk to them about, you know, their growth strategies, you know, what were they doing around sales and marketing? What was their exit strategy? Because my job is to help you get to your exit strategy. I would actually have some of my partners comment to me that growth and sales and marketing, it just wasn't a priority for them at the moment because they didn't have the time to take on any new customers or any new business at the moment because their existing clients were keeping them far too busy. And I think that's a very sad commentary because as a business owner, you should never have this kind of mindset about your business. You know, you should always be actively planning for scalable growth. And I always joke that it's not as if, you know, John, or if you know Frank Coletti, our GVP of Worldwide Sales, you know, they would never at the end of the month come to us when I did used to work in sales and say, okay, guys, just stop all the orders right now. Order desk is closed. We just don't have the time or the bandwidth to onboard any new partners at the moment. So just go and do something else while we get all caught up. It just would never happen, you know, because we are a company that has an aggressive growth mindset. And because of that, the order desk for us is never closed. So that's a big point. But, you know, I have this role because there are MSPs out there who are ready to invest their time and their energy in their business and take their growth seriously, but they just don't know what they don't know. A lot of MSPs that I work with, they were founded by techs. They're technologists, they're engineers. So technology isn't their wheelhouse. You know, the sales and the marketing piece wasn't really a consideration when they started their business. So they're coming to me and asking me, you know, what activities could I recommend that will help them grow their customer base, because they're getting a lot of word of mouth and referrals right now. And so they're recognizing that word of mouth and referrals, although they're fantastic, we all love them, they're just unpredictable and they're not guaranteed. So it makes it very difficult to plan for sustainable growth when we're just relying on word of mouth and referrals. So they're coming to me, and I'm so happy about it because I have this wonderful job because of it, on how do they fill their sales funnel beyond what word of mouth and referrals are able to provide. Also, MSPs are struggling with operational inefficiencies, and that has also limited and impacted their ability to grow. And a lot of this is attributed just to a lack of automation. A lot of MSPs that we work with are still doing much of their work manually, going back to this lack of time. They just haven't had the time to invest in automation. Talking to MSPs, they know they need to do it. You know, they know that if they're doing a task 2, 3, 4 times and it's a repeatable task, that's something that should be automated. But it's just trying to find the time to get that automation done. And because a lot of the times they're just still dealing with the tech labor shortage. So that's also complicating matters. But in saying all of this, we can't be relying on human capital to grow and scale the business because 1, we can't find it. And 2, we know that human capital is expensive. So the way to grow without relying on human capital is through automation and operational efficiency. And that's why the whole NERD team exists, to help our partners with their automation, with their improved operational efficiency, and why they've created resources like the Automation Cookbook and the PowerShell Cookbook that I hope everybody is using. That is a fantastic resource that my technical head nerd colleagues have created to help MSPs with their scripting and with their automation processes, to help them scale via technology and not through human capital. And I think right now we're over 800 different scripts that are documented within it. And I know more gets added to it every week. So if you're not familiar with our cookbook, just put cookbook into the question panel, and I will be sure to get a link sent over to you later today or tomorrow at the latest so that you can access that. And then MSPs are still really challenged with how to best mitigate risk and how to better secure their clients. Again, as we continue to see, ransomware, cyber attacks, they're not going anywhere, and they're only getting more and more prevalent. So MSPs really need to make sure that they're investing in the right tool sets, that they've established the right set of policies and procedures that are needed to properly protect and secure their customers and mitigate their risk. And if something happens, be able to get them back up and running post-attack as quickly as possible, because not if, but when. And so MSPs need to be able to help their customers with this. And that's why, you know, we have and we continue to bring on different market-leading security products like our DNS filter, MailAssure, EDR that we offer through SentinelOne. And then pretty soon you're going to start hearing about our new MDR solution where we're going to be providing partners with SIM and SOC support services. So we're just putting the finishing touches on that. So you're probably going to hear from that about that in the next maybe couple of weeks, and then definitely into 2024. But the idea here is, with our new SIM and SOC and our MDR solution, help MSPs be able to offer true network, cloud, and endpoint protection, detection, and remediation services to their customers. Because having in-depth visibility into your customer's entire network never been more critical. And then lastly, I think the last big challenge that we see MSPs continuing to deal with that's impacting their growth. Oh, sorry, MDR, managed detection and response. Sorry, I tell people not to use acronyms and I'm the worst for it. So MDR, managed detection and response, as opposed to EDR, which is endpoint detection and response. And really the difference is EDR, endpoint, just focuses on the endpoint device. MDR, managed, we're incorporating the whole environment, you know, the whole network, cloud, as well as the endpoint. So it's more all encompassing. So thank you for pointing that out, Mario. So going to my last point, lackluster profitability due to the failure to initiate price increases. And so that's really resulting in overall pricing commoditization in the market. And when we look at the 2022 Service Leadership Report, profitability report, where they benchmark thousands of MSPs every year, they're finding that the top 25%, who they call best in class, they're getting profitability levels around 21%, which is really well done, really good. But the bottom, well, the other 75%, they're 10% or less profitability, net profitability every year. And then the bottom 25% that they benchmark are zero. They're pretty much breaking even. And one of their reasons for this, they feel, there's several, but one of the big ones they feel for these lackluster profitability for MSPs that are struggling with growth and with their revenues just comes from not raising prices. They're failing to initiate regular price increases for their services. And so that's impacting things. And then as they're working with prospects to try and win that client, they're reducing their prices dramatically. And so this is one of the contributing factors to the pricing commoditization that we're still continuing to see in the marketplace today. So how can we begin to remedy this parent disconnect? So what do MSPs need to do to kind of make that jump from an oversaturated, overpopulated red ocean to calm, serene blue ocean waters? And I think first we have to get understanding around what are our competitors doing? What are they offering? Because the whole point of this exercise is to avoid coming across appearing just like them. So you want to make sure that your MSP stands out. You want to show that you're different so that we can actually steal clients from them and increase our market share. So we got to do a little bit of homework. We got to do some research. We want to get an understanding around, what are the services and the programs that your competitors are offering, but also see if we can find out, more importantly, what are the services that they're not offering out in the marketplace. See if we can figure out what vertical markets or regions are your competitors targeting. And then looking at how well are your competitors doing at marketing and promoting their MSP and their services. And again, kind of going back to my previous point earlier, that fortunately, unfortunately, MSPs are still not very good at the marketing and promotion. Again, you are what you are online. So if your competition isn't out there, or if they are out there, but they're really not talking about anything compelling, there's your opportunity then to leapfrog them. So you're going to want to check out your competitors' websites, check out their LinkedIn pages, look at their Facebook if they're on Facebook, to see how they are representing themselves online so that you don't appear like them. So looking at their website, does everything look modern and professional? What does their messaging say about them? What kind of content marketing strategy are they using? Because basically you want to look at your competitor's website like you are a potential business owner looking for a new MSP. Looking at your competitors' social feeds and their website, would you be motivated to reach out to these guys and request a meeting from them? And then make sure you compare this to your own website and to your own social feeds. And then ask yourself the same question. If I was an MSP looking for, or if I was a business owner looking for a new MSP because I wasn't quite happy with the MSP I was working with, and I came across your website, what kind of first impressions would I receive? Would I be motivated to reach out and engage with you? Would I see you as a viable alternative? And if you've attended kind of my office hours and my boot camps over the last month or so, this has been a big theme that we've been covering about how to make improvements to your website, to drive traffic to your website, as well as get that engagement up. And then also we want to look at our data. Every MSP has data that they're collecting that they can leverage, that's going to help them figure out where possible new revenue opportunities lie for them. And a key source of that data is going to come from your RMM. It's going to come from your PSA, from your ticketing system. So you want to make sure that you are monitoring everything within the customer's environment so that you can have the greatest visibility possible. Because yes, if you're an Essential partner or if you're an Insight partner, your RMM platform, it is your remote monitoring and management tool set. It's what you use to deliver your managed services. But your RMM also acts as your data repository, as your data aggregation tool set as well. And it can provide considerable insight into customer trends, and it can highlight where future sales opportunities may lie. But I don't think MSPs are really utilizing or looking at their RMM or their ticketing system in this way today. You know, they're not looking at their RMM, their ticketing system, and all the data that's in there, and then looking at it and thinking to themselves, you know, where are there opportunities for me to make more money? But you should, right? As an example, you know, looking at asset inventory reports, you know, do you happen to have any customers on there that have physical devices on site, like servers, that might be approaching end of life? You know, is there an opportunity here for you to move those devices into the cloud instead of just blanket replacing the server and keeping it on-prem and, you know, keeping everything the same, status quo? We want to think about the opportunity that is before us. You know, not only can you help your customers by improving their scalability and their profitability and helping them to manage their costs by going up to the cloud, but this direction can also help your MSP as well, because you can use this move to the cloud to increase your margins, because you no longer have to manage these on-prem devices. Also, MSPs need to be monitoring everything within their customer's environment. I know we've been talking about that for 20 years. Every device should be imported into your RMM, because it's your RMM and it's your ticketing system that's going to give you the visibility and the alerting that you need within a centralized dashboard, because ideally, no device should be left behind, because devices equals data, which equals money. And so we want to correlate, we want to monetize this data to help support any new customer acquisition and drive new revenue potential. And I bring this up because still unbelievably, I'll have conversations with MSPs that tell me they don't support desktops or they don't support users. They primarily just support servers. Or they'll tell me they're a Windows shop. We don't do anything with Macs. Or they'll tell me, yeah, we don't really do anything for security. Our customers aren't really looking for that. They aren't asking for that. And so, you know, when I hear this from MSPs that I'm working with, I really have to contain myself and not scream at them that they're leaving money on the table with this kind of thinking. And more importantly, you're leaving yourselves open to the competition for them to come in and have that right conversation about this, which could potentially cause them to leave you and move over to them. Especially within this hybrid, you know, kind of work world that we're now finding ourselves in. Hybrid work just naturally translates into more devices and increased data accumulation and more applications that need supporting. So MSPs really, you know, unfortunately, they do need to be at the forefront of helping businesses manage all of this in a safe and secure way. But this equals more money and additional services that you can tack on and bill for. Because employees are at the heart of any business, we know that. And we want to really focus our messaging around what's important to CEOs. And CEOs are always interested in hearing about how, you know, their MSP provider can make their end users safer, more secure, more productive. Because productive employees, they are profitable employees. And that's what CEOs care about, how to increase their profitability and how to control their costs. And then on a regular basis, MSPs should be looking across their entire customer base and doing what we call, if you've attended my boot camps in the past, a white space exercise to see which of their customers have which services and which of their customers do not. And you know, you've probably heard me, if you've attended in the past, I talk about this all the time. So by doing this white space exercise, if you see that there's 10, 15, 20 customers who aren't enrolled in, you know, X, Y, or Z services, then this becomes another set of possible sales ops for you, where you can go in, upsell them, and increase the monthly revenue that you're generating from those clients. And this is a really valuable exercise that if you haven't done before, I really encourage you to put that on your to-do list for 2024, because it was something that I did quite frequently whenever I took over a new territory to manage. I moved territories probably every couple of years. I seem to have been moved into a new territory. And so whenever I did take over a new territory, the first thing I did was to do a white space exercise. I had to figure out which products my partners in my new territory had and which products they didn't. And then I had to formulate a plan of where I needed to start to start meeting with these partners, because I had to rebuild my pipeline, because every time I switched territories, I didn't get to take my pipeline with me. I had to leave it with my old territory and start building a new one. But then once my, white space exercise was completed, that's when I would book my strategy calls. So I could find out what were their goals, what were their business objectives, what was their exit strategy that I can help them for, and was there a place where maybe some of our solutions might be able to assist them. And so that's where the power of conducting regular executive business reviews with your customers comes from. And if you're not sitting down with your customers on a quarterly or semi-annual basis, this is another area where you're missing out on key business building and pipeline creation activities, which again will be very beneficial to your MSP. So if you're not doing EBRs, that's what I call them, executive business reviews, EBRs quite regularly, add that to your to-do list for 2024 as well. And so analytics really becomes your accountability partner. There is a wealth of intel that can be found within your PSA, within your RMM, and it can all be exploited. And that output can help drive new revenue opportunities for your MSP. And it's only by examining the data regularly that you're going to be able to uncover these new revenue opportunities, which is where we start creating that blue ocean for ourselves. And then next, we want to work on getting a good understanding of our customers or our prospects' pain points and challenges. And this is really important because the average small, medium-sized business, the average small and medium-sized enterprise, they're evolving. They're a much different buyer now than they were, 3-5 years ago. I think it's fairly fair to say that the average SMB, SME, they are more educated now. They understand technology, I think, a little bit better now because of having gone through the pandemic and having to shift a lot of their employees over to remote work very quickly. So going through all of that has really educated them. I think they're beginning to understand the value of security more and more because of the breaches that they're hearing about in the news now. It's almost a daily occurrence. I think 3-4 years ago, many of the smaller businesses that you might have been talking to, if you start talking about security, they probably kind of shut you down and said, nah, don't worry about us. We'll never be breached. Who would ever target me? We're too small. But I think now, some of them, many of them, they're getting quite terrified about being breached. I think they're beginning to understand that they're not necessarily immune and that cyber attacks and the bad guys aren't just targeting the big organizations. And so I think now more and more small and medium-sized businesses, small and medium-sized enterprises, they're ready, they're open to hearing from their MSP about ways in which you can better protect their employees, the way you can better protect their organization, and talk about how you can make their business run more smoothly and efficiently. And so because of that, our customer conversations need to evolve. And so we need to change the narrative to allow us to create our own unique value. And it begins by no longer using that term MSP and managed services in our marketing and sales messaging. I really feel strongly that we need to drop these terms from our regular vernacular, because when we lead with MSP, we're actually confusing the market. Because when you think about it, what does the term managed service provider even mean? Like, what does it stand for? I have contended since I started in this industry 19 years ago that it was a useless term. I came from the banking industry. I'm non-technical. I have a business and finance and marketing and sales background. It's an industry term that we use, but so many managed service providers state, when you look on their website, you look at their social feeds, that we are the leading provider of managed services in whatever area. And going on this theme of it's a confusing term, I live in a small town. There's about 5,000 people in my town, part of a larger suburb, but our larger town probably has 75 people. And there's this truck that's in my neighborhood, and I see it all the time, and it says managed services plastered across the side. And I know the MSPs that are in my little area, and this company is not a managed service provider. But when you look at their truck, it says managed services, and they talk about property management. So it's a term that other industries besides ours, they're using. And so it just leads to how that can create confusion, because I see managed services because I'm in the industry and I see that truck and I get upset because I'm like, you're not a managed service provider. But in his world, he's delivering managed services for properties and commercial real estate. So again, we need to kind of really think how we're putting ourselves out there and the messaging and how we describe us and how we position ourselves. But the good thing is competition is doing the exact same thing. If they too are out there, decreeing the same thing, that they are the leading provider of managed services in their area. But if you're doing that and your competitors are doing that, then how are you any different? How can your non-technical prospect really discern who's the better MSP to go with then? Because in their minds, in a non-technical business owner mind, they think you all deal with computers and fix computers. And so they need to understand what makes your MSP different from maybe who they're using today and why they should select you over who they're using today. And again, looking at different websites, and I'm connected with a lot of different MSPs on LinkedIn. Many of them are still saying the same thing. They all have the terms MSP plastered on their website, plastered in their marketing, managed services plastered everywhere. And then I think compounding this, I often get asked by partners on probably a weekly basis, what are other MSPs charging for their services? And if you've attended my boot camp on how to build, price, market, sell security programs, you know that is a very in-depth question to answer because it really depends. But I also find this question somewhat frustrating to answer because when I hear it, all it makes me think about is that this MSP doesn't want to stand out, that their primary goal is to make sure that they come across looking just like their competitors, like their competition, which I'm pretty sure is the opposite of what they're intending, because why would you want to look like your competition? Why would you want to do something that's almost identical to what your competition is doing? Doesn't really make sense. But when an MSP goes and wants to distill their whole value down to the price that they charge, and they're fearful of charging too much for their services, it's going to make it very difficult to help your MSP grow and thrive. Because when your primary focus is setting your pricing so that it's closely aligned to what other MSPs are charging, you are basically telling the market that you're not really any different from any other MSP that they might be investigating or they might be thinking of going with, that you're basically all one and the same. And so again, this is this idea where we want to change the narrative. We want to change the narrative in our sales and our marketing strategies and the messaging we put out there and how we position your MSP, and trying to figure out a way to diversify and differentiate your MSP from all the other MSPs that are out there to help us create our own unique value, because that's when we do start moving over into the blue ocean waters. So the solution is probably what you're screaming at the screen at, saying, come on, Steph, tell us what to do. How do we move over to this blue ocean? It's what David has coined in his industry presentations when he's out in the market. He calls it the silo effect. And it's through the silo effect that you're going to be able to create your own value in your own blue ocean. And it starts by, first, making that commitment to stop advertising ourselves as an MSP and to stop telling the market that we offer and deliver managed services. Because when you look at everything that you do and everything that you offer, there are better ways to be promoting yourself and your business out there in the industry. And so I really encourage you to think critically about what is it that you do, what type of MSP are you that doesn't rely on you using those three little words of MSP or those three little letters, MSP. So like, are you an IT services company? Are you a professional services company? Are you a security company or a compliance company, a cloud company, a training company? Are you a consulting company? Are you a backup, business continuity, disaster recovery company? Do you do a lot with business transformation and AI? These are all individual areas of expertise that you possess within your overall managed services practice that you can promote, that you can leverage to gain entry into a prospect's business, depending on whatever their key business challenges and pain points happen to be. You know, these are all areas of your business that you can create a silo out of and use as an opportunity to market yourself differently, because you can claim that you're a specialist in one or a few of these different areas. Again, depending on who we're targeting and what the issues are that you're trying to help solve. And promoting yourself like a cybersecurity specialist or a disaster recovery specialist or a business continuity specialist. Those are not red ocean items. Data protection, security, cloud, AI, they're never going to be red ocean elements, because these are critical, specialized items that fit well within a blue ocean strategy. But continuing to call yourself an MSP and telling the world via your website, your social feeds, your marketing and promotion activities that you sell managed services, that's the type of messaging that is going to keep you, more in red ocean territory, and is going to limit your opportunities for growth. And so looking at the programs that you're offering today, how can we do a better job of using them to kind of carve out an opportunity where we can create a blue ocean that will be a catalyst for new growth within your business? Is there some sort of niche that you can create and use as a lead-in? Is there an area of specialization that other MSPs in your area are not currently offering or promoting? And again, they may offer it, but if they're not promoting it, there is your opportunity right there, because again, you are what you are online. And so when you look at, kind of the sample, security matrix, and you may recognize this from my bootcamp, the Guide to Building, Selling, Pricing Security Programs. Well, it does look like that there's kind of 4 different programs listed here. There's also a series of modules highlighted here as well. I have IT services listed here, security services, backup services, training services, consulting and reporting services. Each of these different boxes has its own value prop, and it represents an opportunity to create a service offering around it, and again, use that as an entry point into a prospect's business. And just to avoid any confusion, please do not misunderstand me if you did attend my building security programs, that I'm now doing an about face, and I'm telling you that a la carte is the way to go. That is not. A la carte from a service delivery standpoint is very risky to your MSP and to your business. We want to create standardized programs based on a standardized tech stack that we sell to everyone to create that standard across our customers. But when it comes to the marketing and promotion and how do we get that initial meeting with a client, this is where I am saying, take one of these boxes and use that as your entry point. Promote yourself. If that's your specialization, if that's your area of expertise, promote that area of expertise. And when you're marketing your MSP, when you're designing your website, your social media messaging, talk about that area of expertise, that area of specialization. Talk about your unique capabilities, because here we want to make sure that we're illustrating that you understand the small and medium-sized business market, or the small and medium-sized enterprise or mid or upper enterprise market, whoever we're going after, that you understand their organizational challenges that they're facing. And then you use your, one of these modules listed here as that springboard to landing that first meeting with your target client. And then once you have won that client's, that prospect's business, based on whatever entry point or pain point or area of specialization or niche that you're promoting yourself on, in order to properly protect or deliver that service, it is going to require implementation of the entire tech stack at that point, because all these modules, they are interconnected, they feed into each other. So by marketing and promoting just one of these modules and putting that messaging out there, in reality, you really need to implement the entire stack in order to deliver it properly. And so it is about changing the narrative, changing the way that we market and talk to an end customer so that you appear different, more specialized than other MSPs who are out there that are just out there advertising that they offer managed services. And so the way to begin creating that blue ocean for yourself is to first figure out, what are the challenges, what are the struggles, the pain points that your target audience is dealing with, and then focus on selling a solution that can resolve whatever that challenge is. And then any of these modules that you're seeing listed here in the security matrix can then be repositioned, repurposed to address whatever that pain point or challenge that prospect is describing to you. Because by focusing on how you can remove pains from your prospect's business, that's going to increase, translate to increased sales for your MSP. And it's going to help create, again, that blue ocean that we're looking for. And so in your marketing messaging, in your sales messaging, on your website, in your social feeds, you want to communicate how you can help your prospects remove the pain of losing their data with your backup and disaster recovery services. Help your prospects remove the pain of being ransomed with your security services. How you can help your prospects remove the pain of paying, some sort of huge financial penalty because they failed a regulatory audit with your compliance services. Help them to remove the pain of unproductive employees as a result of unexpected downtime with your patching and preventative maintenance services. How you can help them remove the pain of a slow support response through your local IT services, and help them with the pain of, not knowing how to scale, how to best grow their business with your cloud and AI and business transformation services. Because at the end of the day, pain is everything. And business owners will pay if you can demonstrate that you can help remove that pain. So use these challenges as your entry points into a prospect's business and demonstrate how you can help solve those struggles for them. Because when you can do this successfully, that managed services function, that's naturally going to ride the coattails of it all. And so from a marketing and sales perspective, you promote, you market based on a silo or on a specific module. And then once you're in with that prospect, that's when you go and you implement your full tech stack. You implement your full sets of services, because one service typically requires the implementation of the entire tech stack anyways to deliver that one service effectively. So it's really about departmentalizing to start to create that blue ocean for yourself that's going to allow you then to better differentiate your business from other MSPs that you might be up against. So what silos can you promote out there in the market that will help you differentiate your MSP from the competitors that are out there? Obviously we have security and compliance, data protection, backup and disaster recovery, business continuity. These are all still very important challenges that business owners are facing and having to contend with. Cloud services, consulting services, other couple of different paths that you can take to start a conversation with a business owner who may not know what is needed to help their organization grow and scale successfully and efficiently. Co-managed IT services. I've been talking about that nonstop, I feel, for 2023. It's been kind of my theme, especially leading with your patch management, using this as your foot in the door program. Fantastic service that your MSP can offer to overworked and overburdened IT departments who may not have the time or the expertise to patch their company's systems properly. And we all know how important patching is to keep the bad guys out and not letting them into your prospect systems. And so again, 2023 has been kind of the co-managed has been the theme for 2023. So with that, I've developed, I think, a bunch of different boot camps. I developed a playbook. So if one of your strategies, as we talk about departmentalizing, as we talk about going in a silo, is to maybe move up market into co-managed, I do have a co-managed digital playbook that I've written this year. So just write playbook in the question panel, and I will get that. Over to you. It's a pretty comprehensive guide that really focuses on how do you build, price, market, sell a variety of different co-managed programs to the co-managed market. So if you want that, it's free for the taking. And also came across another partner who, kind of this theme of the silo, they sell Microsoft license management and reporting services as a co-managed option. And it's something that they offer to bigger firms because these bigger firms need this information and they don't have the right software in place to be able to do this themselves. So we have a partner that uses their RMM agent and the automation, the reporting capabilities that are built in, and they provide quarterly Microsoft licensing roll-up reports to the auditors of these bigger companies. And they're selling this to the tune of 60, 70,000 devices at a time, and they're charging 50 cents a device per month. So pretty substantial revenues there. And then the added bonus comes that once they can get the RMM agent in there, it then acts as a catalyst to uncovering other sales opportunities that are in there because you have that visibility now. And that can be used to help build your pipeline. And so this silo approach, this departmentalization strategy, that is the approach that our best top MSPs are using to help them gain market share and to help them grow year over year. You know, our top MSPs, they are marketing themselves based on these different silos. And when you go and check out their websites, you can see that. You know, these MSPs, they're not advertising themselves as MSPs who sell managed services. They're advertising themselves as cybersecurity specialists, support specialists, business technology strategists, technology coaches. But their managed services offerings, even though they're using these as their leads and as their entry points, the managed services component, it just naturally falls into each of these different silos. Because if you promote that you are a security strategist or disaster recovery specialist or a business technology coach, in order to deliver those services and to deliver on your recommendations, especially if you use the strategist or coaching entry lead in, you have to touch every device that's on their network. And so you have to deploy your RMM across the entire network so you can monitor everything, manage everything, protect everything, and report on everything. And so although the MSPs that are listed here provide managed services, they're leading with something else, like security, like backup, like cloud, like consulting, like support, local IT support. They're not leading with that innocuous term managed services or referring themselves as an MSP on their website. You know, these MSPs have done a wonderful job of differentiating themselves and creating niches for their services to help create their own blue ocean market for themselves. And this is really what I would love more MSPs and really more businesses in general to be aware of and to try and replicate. So taking a closer look, you know, what does your website say about you? What does your LinkedIn company page, your personal page, your Google business profile page, what do they all say about you? Are you calling yourself an MSP? Are you talking about how you deliver and offer managed services? Or does it say something more, something different that's going to set you apart from other MSPs in the area that will then motivate me as a non-technical potential business owner wanting to reach out and engage with you? You know, is it evident from reading your website that your MSP, you know, when I go to your website, that above the fold, the first thing I see, is it evident from your website that you're going to help me solve some big problem or some big business challenge that I might be experiencing? Which is why I'm even Googling computer and IT support services in the first place, because I'm working with someone, don't think I really like them anymore, so now I need to see where my alternatives and who my alternatives are in my area. Or is your website, when I go to it, full of tech jargon, terms, acronyms like EDR, DR, DNS? Is there pictures of servers and cables, and you're promoting that you support, you know, and use different hardware and software products? For the most part, as non-technical business owners who are outsourcing the IT management to an outside firm, this isn't relatable. And it's more likely going to cause them to hit the back button and return to their initial search results. Which leads me to, I think, even a more pressing question that I need to ask, because I've run into this quite often working with MSPs is, again, if I'm a business owner looking for someone new because I'm not quite happy with who I have today, and I start taking it to Google, am I going to find you? Is your name even going to show up? So this isn't a boot camp on SEO optimization best practices, because that would be a very, very long boot camp. But if you go and Google yourself and you find that you're not easily showing up on Google, if you're not ranking in the page 1 or page 2, then this is something we need to work on. And so a lot of it will come from your content marketing strategy. It's going to come from your website, if there needs to be some work there. There was a great office hour webinar that our market builder team gave, I think, a couple of months ago, and it was all based on MSP SEO best practices. And these were just basic fundamental things that any MSP with a little bit of time, if they put some dedicated and focus into it, can fix, that will help prospects find you and get you closer to page 1, and then therefore drive more traffic to your website. So that office hour webinar session, it was recorded. So I'm showing a screenshot here. It's located within Market Builder, so you have to have a login to Market Builder to access it. But if you are an Enable partner, you have Market Builder for free. It's just part of your partnership with us. And if you go into Market Builder, into the marketing and sales resources section, click on content date, and that will reorg things. And then it should be the very first one because we haven't done another session in the last couple of months, and it should be there. But it was a fantastic session. It was about an hour, and it really talked about in very plain detail, like even I understood it, on how do you leverage Google along with some SEO basics to help improve the odds that your MSP is going to be found online easily. Because if prospects can find you on Google, that's going to lead to increased traffic flow to your website, where they're going to be able to learn more about you and the services that you offer. So again, not to keep belaboring this point, but if you are looking at your website, your social feeds, your Google business profile, if there is still strong use of the term managed services or MSP, this is going to make it very difficult to get out of that red ocean because you're going to continue to compete with all the other MSPs that are out there in the area that are continuing to do the same thing. And you're not going to achieve, or it'll be more difficult to achieve the kind of growth that you might be looking for. Because again, by continuing to call yourself an MSP and overusing that term managed services, it is going to hurt the business and restrict the amount of revenue that your MSP could generate. But if cybersecurity or your ability to provide quick local IT support or your coaching or your specialized compliance consulting services, if that's what gets you in the door with the prospect, promote yourself as such. Promote yourself as that cybersecurity specialist, that business coach, that strategist. Advertise that you are a training company, that you're a business transformation, an AI, productivity consultant. Because what you're doing when you position yourself and you put the messaging out along those lines, you're speaking to a business need, you're speaking to a struggle, business challenge that your prospect has versus the tech stack that you offer. And that's a very different, more relatable message. And there's some comments coming in that are agreeing with that you need to be relatable to your target audience. And that's who you always need to have in mind whenever you're doing your marketing, your sales messaging. So yes, we're MSPs, but you're much more than that. You have so much more to offer. So don't let those 3 little letters define you. Now, in saying all of that, we still have a problem. Because another big issue that arises when we remain stuck in a red ocean is this problem that David talks about, and I'm going to continue it on in this session, that he refers to as overfishing, where MSPs are attempting to eat everything they can. And so what does he mean by this? Many emerging MSPs, in their attempts to grow their business, believe that all business is good business. And therefore, they're working at picking up every customer they can find, every nickel they can find, and a lot of times they're cutting their prices in order to win that deal. And that is a big problem for our industry. And so many times I have heard kind of the smaller emerging MSPs state that when they're up against another competitor who might be cheaper than they are, that they feel that they don't have a choice but to go and immediately cut their monthly fees to try and win that deal. instead of trying to educate and having the confidence to speak to the customer around why they are 10, 20, 30% more expensive. And so it's because of this kind of knee-jerk kind of behavior that we're going to continue to experience this pricing commoditization in the marketplace. And if MSPs if they're not cognizant of this and they don't stop behaving in this manner, if they don't stop themselves from getting caught up in this underbidding war, then it is going to become a race to the bottom. And it's a race that really no one wants to win. And so we really need to encourage everyone that we come across, and especially, you know, our role here as a vendor in the industry and other vendors, to correct this behavior, to stop being so concerned about what other MSPs are charging, and to stop using price as that primary way to compete. You know, saying that you're cheaper than the other guy is not the best or the most winningest of sales strategies. Because for continued sustained growth of the entire MSP industry, it is going to be important to replenish the stocks, and this can really only be accomplished if the whole industry adopts and supports this change. Because the MSP industry, it is big enough that we don't need to undersell our services in order to win contracts. And the top MSPs in the world, the ones that are best in class, the ones that are growing year over year, they're not competing or negotiating on price to win the deal and grab that market share. So what are they doing? Well, first, they're very disciplined. They adhere to stricter pricing policies. They don't allow for big discounts, and they don't allow for their customers to dictate their price. In a lot of cases, the best-in-class MSPs that you might be coming up against, they tend to be the most expensive MSP in the market. And they've trained their sales team to actually weaponize their competitors' lower prices and to use these lower prices against them by, you know, coming back with a response whenever they get that pricing objection to say, you know, I'm actually worried if this is all that MSP is charging you, because what this is telling me is that they're likely missing some things. They might be missing some key security elements. It seems like they're missing some key workflow or some productivity improvement services in their packages to be able to offer you such a low price. And so it's really the lack of those key features that we include in our monthly fee that our clients that we work with highly value. I think that's what's resulting in that price gap, and I'd be a little concerned about that. And so these larger, more operationally efficient and mature MSPs, they are the ones that are also placing a heightened focus on standardization and automation in order to drive efficiency within the organization to help them better control their costs, which also translates into increased buying power for them. And this is a really big one for best in class. You know, they are focused on standardization and doing what they can to try and manage and drive down their costs. And so using as an example, you know, thinking about, you know, maybe the average number of backup solutions an MSP might have, or that they might manage on behalf of their customers. You know, I've heard MSPs say, you know, that they're managing anywhere from, you know, 6 to 8 different backup products. And so my answer back to them, or response back to them, is why? Is it really necessary to be managing, you know, 6 different backup products? Because when I hear that, I'm thinking, how is it possible for an engineering team, a tech team, a help desk support team to be technologically proficient at an expert level that they need to be when it comes to managing something as important as their customer's backup? Because I don't feel that a tech team can be experts at an expert, proficient, highly proficient level in 6 different backup products that they're supporting. I would like to think at best they can strive to be generalists across all of them. And so accommodating different backup products just to keep your customers happy, that can easily and very quickly become a headache that can quickly spin out of control, because each additional backup solution that you opt to take on, it brings with it increased complexity, increased management requirements, which also means increased costs to you and a heightened risk and increased opportunity for something to be missed or for something to go wrong. It also becomes a drain on your resources, which I think is only going to do your MSP more harm than good, because then you're not able to reap the benefits of scale and standardization. Rather, if MSPs opted to standardize their tech stack, consolidate down to one, maybe two backup products that they opt to specialize on, as an example, this will then obviously help them become more proficient and get to that expert status. But it also can use to help improve their buying power, because any good vendor will give you a better price point if you decide to consolidate everything over to their singular product. But if you decide, or if you choose to kind of spread out your purchases across multiple different vendors, then unfortunately there's not a whole lot that a vendor is going to be able to do on price, because you don't have the volume with them that would really warrant that benefit of better pricing. So if you do happen to be an MSP that manages, 6 different backup products, or 4 different AV, or 3 different EDR products, maybe consider standardizing your tech stack a bit. Prioritize on building partnerships with a couple of key vendors in order to maximize not just your technological proficiency and proficiency, but also help improve your purchasing power, because that's going to be one pretty big area where you can control your costs. And another tactic that top MSPs use out in the marketplace, and this one's kind of, I don't want to say controversial, but I can see the pros and cons of it. But there are MSPs out there in the space, the top ones, that have implemented minimum monthly spending requirements just to do business with them. Like, as an example where this comes from, we have a partner out in California. They have 75 employees, and one of their pricing policies is a customer has to be willing to spend a minimum of $5,000 a month to be a client of theirs. And they will actually tell prospects at the very beginning of a potential managed services engagement that this is a pricing requirement that they have. I think it's pretty ballsy. But at this point, the prospect can then do one of two things. They can go one of two ways. If the prospect says that they're not sure whether they want to spend that kind of money or not, then the MSP has trained their sales team to respond back by saying, okay, I understand. We can't give you actually a definitive price until we've done our business and cybersecurity assessment anyways, because we need to determine the state of your network, the quality of your security at this point. So if you're agreeable, let us move forward and complete our evaluation, complete our assessment, and then we're going to know what we're working with. And just as an aside, this partner does charge for their assessment process as well, because it is pretty extensive. Their whole assessment is based on what's outlined in the CIS cybersecurity framework, and they actually market themselves and market that they use the CIS controls as a key differentiator for their business, and it's worked very well for them. And so by kind of teaching their sales team to kind of respond back in this way, they found a couple of things. By charging for their assessments, and for those customers that agree to pay for it, it signifies the prospect's seriousness and their commitment to the process. And it gave the MSP this heightened sense of credibility and authority, which makes sense because we naturally tend to place a higher value on things that we have to pay for versus those things that we might get for free or that are drastically discontinued. Like, again, I look at a lot of MSPs' websites, and many times I'll see a call to action, call us for a free assessment, call us for a free audit, complimentary. Like, all of that really signifies and will lead a prospect to not value that audit, that assessment as much than if I had to spend, $5,000, $10,000 to get that kind of information. But they can back this price up. The data that's collected from this assessment process, it works to highlight risks, gaps, holes in the customer's security and network setup. And what that ends up doing is it helps create urgency in the entire sales process. And it helps, and it goes a long way to helping them justify why they charge $5,000 a month, because they're able to demonstrate via their findings that they uncovered from their assessment what the impact is going to be on that prospect's business if those holes aren't plugged or taken care of. And then after that, if the prospect, doesn't agree with the minimum monthly spend, or if they don't want to proceed with paying for that assessment, then what the MSP then does is they'll pass that prospect over to another MSP who is more willing to take on those smaller clients or those more riskier deals. And so that's another key part of their sales training, is that they teach their sales reps how to handle this kind of referral properly. You know, the sales team has learned to say, yeah, no problem, Mr. Prospect, I respect your decision, but it does appear that we're not going to be a good fit for one another. But I'd be more than happy to introduce you to another MSP who doesn't adhere to the same type of security and compliance requirements that we enforce across all of our clients. So if you like, I'd be more than happy to have them reach out to you. And then they will go and then pass this risky, less profitable prospect over to that other MSP. Now, some of you might be thinking as you're listening to me, well, man, that seems a little bit harsh. But they are a top MSP. They are a best-in-class MSP, and they operate in this way in order to better protect themselves, to protect their livelihood, the livelihood of their employees, because they feel and they won't allow a customer to introduce risk into their MSP that could then potentially bring down their entire MSP. But it's this kind of mindset that really works to continually grow and improve their book of business. They have a very good quality book of business that they work with. Because this MSP, they understand their value. They are confident in the breadth and depth of the coverage and the quality of the services that they provide. And so they're not willing to allow a customer to undermine their service quality or increase their risk exposure because of some perceived budget issue. And often than not, because of this whole approach, a lot of times the customer will actually decide to sign on at that $5,000 minimum level because they feel that, wow, this MSP really knows their stuff. This MSP has really demonstrated their specialized security knowledge, the expertise that they offer. They have demonstrated how they can quantifiably improve my business and what the risk would be if I ignore their recommendations, versus another MSP whose only positioning stance is that they're cheaper, that they're low cost, and they only win deals because they are the cheapest MSP in the area. And if you gain a customer because you happen to be the cheapest, that might not be the best type of client to have in the first place. And so that's really, I think, the biggest difference that I see between the red ocean MSPs and the ones that have moved into the blue ocean and carved out that new market for themselves. Blue ocean MSPs really are more mindful about the quality of customers that they decide to take on, and they're not tempted to just sign on any business that comes across. They understand that it's better to have 50 customers at 80 points than it is to have 100 customers at 10 or 15 points. They just think and they position themselves as a high value business who only works with other high value businesses. And so if the entire industry as a whole could kind of pivot their mindset and collectively understand that it is okay to say no to discounting, then this would go a long way towards alleviating the pricing commoditization that we currently are seeing. And the market would just then be forced to pay the right price. We can always dream in a utopian nation when it comes to that. But it does seem that new, smaller, emerging MSPs, they are the ones who feel the most compelled to heavily discount their prices to win the deal, and their margins are suffering as a result. And again, it makes sense, right? Like they're new, they're trying to build their business. How do you build your business if you don't have customers? But I think what we need to do as an industry is help build up the confidence in those smaller MSPs, give them the confidence to kind of push back on those companies who question their monthly price or who are looking and demanding a discount. And instead of focusing on the discount, MSPs need to kind of train themselves to repositioning that objection and should be asking their prospects instead, yes, I understand that you might have budget issues, Mr. Prospect. This might be a little bit higher than you were expecting to pay. But what if I could improve your security? What if I can improve your employee productivity? What if I can help you better manage your labor costs and increase your overall profitability? Wouldn't that be more beneficial to your business than the 10% discount that you're questioning because I happen to be 10% or 15% more than, the other quote you got? So we do need to replenish the stocks We need to help each other. We need to educate one another on how to generate more business at these higher price points to avoid putting pricing pressure on the rest of the industry. And that's where, we really do advocate joining peer groups. All the top best-in-class growing MSPs, they are part of peer groups. They are part of business improvement groups. They have said time and time again in numerous different conversations how invaluable of a resource these peer groups are to helping them grow their business, because they're working with other MSPs, other businesses that have been there, done that. They've found a way to kind of get themselves out of the red ocean. Because if a market as a whole can begin, kind of pushing all of its members to start thinking strategically about only selling to high quality clients, that tide is going to force the lower end of the market to kind of rise up to meet this expectation of value-based selling versus just selling because you happen to be the cheapest MSP out there. But again, it does come down to fully understanding your target audience's pain points, being relatable to them. That's been mentioned a couple of times in the question panel. Being relatable to them, understanding their risks, the gaps that they have in their security, in their tech infrastructure, these gaps that urgently need fixing because it is going to negatively impact their business. And it's these challenges that if you can uncover them and promote to them and have a solution towards them, that's what's going to open up the blue waters. These are the areas of opportunities that MSPs can take advantage of, where they can go and then insert, a specialized service to resolve whatever that specific issue or challenge is. And that's how we want to encourage MSPs to move forward. So when working on your marketing strategy over the next couple of months, for 2024, if you haven't done so yet, really think about differentiating yourself using this silo effect that David speaks about and that I was kind of talking about today. See what you can do to highlight, what is that individual service that you can offer, and build an ROI and efficiency story around to help drive, and improve your prospect's business versus just having, we offer managed services, we're an MSP, and just having that being your main message on your website and your social feeds. Because if you can pivot your thinking, as it relates to your strategy execution, that's really how you're going to gain market share and create that blue ocean for yourself, because you're going to realize that you're no longer going to have to compete on price to win that client. You're going to be able to win the deal based on your specialized service and the expertise that you provide. And you're going to be able to win bigger deals, more profitable deals with customers who do want to do business with you because they recognize what you bring to the table. So where do we go from here? Again, as I mentioned, this bootcamp, it is going to be edited, uploaded in a couple of weeks. So if you are interested in listening to it again, or would like other members of your team to listen to it, you will find it shortly within the Enable You section of our Enable Partner Success Center. If you didn't, I've been talking about marketing a lot lately in the past month. So if you didn't attend my marketing lead gen part 1 a couple of weeks ago, that really focused on building your marketing strategy, especially your digital marketing strategy, because again, you are what you are online, then duck into Enable You and you'll be able to listen to the on-demand version there as well. I have part 2 of that series taking place coming up on the 19th because there's 2 sides to that lead gen coin. We have our marketing, and then we have our proactive sales. And so I'll be talking about how do you build a telesales motion so you can get out there and really commercialize the prospect leads that you might have. And then if you haven't yet, do that honest assessment of your website, your marketing material, your LinkedIn, your Google. If what you're finding comes across as being a little bit generic, if it doesn't prominently articulate what you are good at, what your unique specialization and skill sets are, maybe look at putting some budget aside and investing in the right partnerships to get that all updated. Because remember, you are so much more than those 3 little letters. You are so much more than just an MSP. Don't let those 3 little letters define you. And to help, don't be afraid to check out your competitors' websites. Go to their LinkedIn pages, see how they're promoting themselves, if they are promoting themselves, because these are organizations that you do want to separate yourself from and appear different from. And if you're looking for ideas, remember we have Market Builder. I'm constantly promoting Market Builder. It's a service that is part of your partnership with Enable. So if you need help getting up to speed on how Market Builder works, we have different videos within Market Builder. We have a Getting Started series that happens every Thursday morning so that you can really learn more about it. And we also offer Market Builder office hours on a quarterly basis as well. And if you have any questions as you're going through all of this, seek help. Whether you do join a peer group, work with your partner success manager, register for my office hours, send me an email. We are all here to help. So if there's anything that you need assistance with, don't be afraid to reach out. All right. Thank you everyone for attending today's session. Absolutely appreciate everybody hanging around. I know this is a very busy time. Again, any questions, any follow-up, connect with me on LinkedIn, send me an email, would be happy to assist. If you're not attending office hours next week, if you're not happening to be on my December 19th boot camp, then I wish everyone a very Merry Christmas, happy holidays, and all the best in 2024. We'll see you later. Thanks everyone.